I'm using 3.6. I don't think it really matters. Blender offers all of their old versions. And so you can download 4.0, 3.9, 3.8. I just know 4.1 does not support it. 3.6 is what I'm familiar with. And so I went ahead and just downloaded that one because I know it works. In the future, I know that I read a blog post that said that they're working on getting support for the latest versions of Blender, but it does not matter if we have the latest or not. 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, et cetera, they are more than capable of doing what we need to do. So yeah, so I am on Blender 3.6, and when you open Blender for the first time, you basically get a blank canvas, kind of like this. You'll have a camera, cube, light. You can just go ahead and delete these. I'll talk about some hotkeys and how to move. So scrolling in and out, this would be your zoom. Clicking and dragging with the middle mouse button is rotation, very similar to SolidWorks. So if you click and hold middle mouse, it's going to rotate about that center point there. Shift and then clicking and holding with the mouse button is actually panning the camera. So shift, click with the middle mouse. I have no idea what it is on the keyboard, to be honest. Unfortunately, I just haven't tried. So I'd highly recommend a mouse. Let's see. Similar to SolidWorks as well or other CAD programs, they do have the 3-point views, so you can look. This is a really helpful tool in the top right here to allow you to get the 90-degree angle views. Another thing in the top right, these views, which we'll talk about later, these are kind of your different camera views that you can have. So you have rendering, viewport shading, no textures, and then just a wireframe view. Not too important at the moment. We'll talk about this later. So first things first, you come into Blender, and now we want to get the vehicle in. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click A. And A, as you can see over here, has highlighted everything, and I'll just go ahead and delete everything. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and save this as a new blend file. And you can name this, whatever you want, your project.blend. And so we'll save. So first things first, I'm going to go into File, Import. Here we're looking for STL, because that's what we output. So we'll do STL. And then now at this point, you're looking for those files that you saved. And so in OpenVSP, in my exports, we've got all these things here. Just by doing control click, you can highlight multiple things. I'm going to do shift click just to get everything. And the good thing about Blender is when you import all these files, they'll show up in the correct origin system. So you can see there's our plane. But it's worth noting that these components are individual components, but they're positioned appropriately. So that's a really good thing about the OpenVSP workflow is that it does put them in the correct location. So the first thing to note is a couple other commands. So if I want to move something, you click G, and you'll notice that the cursor, it may be hard to pick up in the recording, but the cursor has changed into a square. And now no need to click anything. All you do is move your mouse, and you are effectively moving this object. When you're ready to place it down, you click, and then it's fixed again. Control Z to undo, because we don't need to move that. So now that the objects are in here, the very first thing that is just a good practice, I guess you could say, to do is you click A, that highlights everything. And let's see here, I believe it's under the Layout tab. Object, we're going to look for Parent, Clear, and Keep Transformation. So typically, this doesn't really do anything. I don't think it actually does very much in OpenVSP, but in some cases, it can detach objects from each other that may have accidentally meshed together. I haven't seen any issues with the OpenVSP workflow, but that's a really good first step to do to be safe. The next thing that we're going to want to do is make sure that these polygons are all okay. So we're going to go to UV editing. There's a tab here. And so you'll see it's pulled up two side-by-side tabs. I'm going to go ahead and drag this kind of out of the way here. And I think that I may be jumping the gun on something, but that's okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is click A, tab, tab, A, tab. I'm just kind of clicking A and tab repeatedly until I get this fully meshed view here. So you see everything is selected at the top and we get a bunch of mesh. So the first thing we're going to do is go to mesh. We're going to do normals and we're going to do recalculate outside. That's the first thing we're going to do. Next, we'll do UV, smart UV project. And we're just going to leave this as is. So what we're basically doing is we're creating a unwrapping of the mesh that we're seeing. And this is useful for when you want to paint the vehicle and stuff like that. I'm just going to go with the defaults. You could probably spend some time changing some of these parameters, but effectively what they do is, as you can see over here now, we have unwrapped our vehicle, the mesh. And so by tweaking some of the settings, you can effectively change the way that it unwraps. So for example, if the mesh overlaps like it is here, right, you can kind of fix that. So you can add more spacing between objects. So like, for example, these are right up against each other, things like that, that just help you paint. Not really a huge deal for what we're doing unless it's really like showmanship and you really want to have a very pretty vehicle. But this is kind of a minor thing that you can tweak if you want. It's kind of like painting the vehicle. So that's going to be the first step, is we want to make this map. And then I want to say the only other thing now would be we're going to go to, what view is it? I think at that point we've got our mesh, so we're good there. We're going to go to texture paint. Okay, and so texture paint, this is where you're actually going to texture the vehicle and you're going to paint the vehicle. So X-Plane has some minimum requirements for the texture that you use on the vehicle. I don't know the exact details on what those requirements are, but what I can tell you is that you need to have a fairly high resolution image or PNG file that's at least maybe 1024 by 1024, and just get a square. So what I did, and I would recommend doing this for all future work, is you basically find in your first iteration, which is what I've done, you find a texture that works and you keep using that texture over and over again. So here in the folder, this tutorial, you'll see that I have this PNG file called red. And I'll just show what this looks like. This is actually what is going to ultimately become the paint on the vehicle. And so what we'll do is it's the right dimensions, which is really what matters. So we're going to take this red, and up here in the top of this texture paint, we'll say open. We're going to locate in our folder this texture, open the image, and you'll see now that we have this square image that is our texture. And this will become our paint. And ultimately, again, I know right now it's pre-painted, but you'll see that it can easily be overwritten, or you can reset it to a white background so that you can paint these vehicles. So next, before
sorry, Anthony, sorry to interrupt. Sure. How did you get to that? I understand you created this previously, but let's say we've got some new vehicle and we don't have that file yet. How would one make that red PNG?
Yeah, sure. So effectively what you're going to do is you're going to go to Google or anything like that. You're just going to look for a white square image, and let's just say 1024 by 1024. We're going to look for some PNG image, and this is 1024 download it, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's really just about finding a solid color or a picture that will be a stand-in that you can then draw on top of.
Gotcha, okay.
And then, so let's say I downloaded this, and then I called it red. So then I would come into here, and I would basically search for it, and I would import that. And what we would get is effectively a white picture. And so it might look something like this, let's say. So let me just kind of draw over this. We would have a picture that's basically blank, just like this, and this would be our starting point. Okay, just a white image. Okay. So this is effectively what we would see.
Gotcha.
So the next step right before we get into the actual painting or the drawing is we need to actually texture every component. So unfortunately, there's not a way that I found where you can actually just like, texture all of them at once. And so what we do is we click on our component. You would then come to, let's see here, this material looks like a CG sphere. Here you would click on this browse material to be linked. There isn't one, so we need to make a new material. So let's do new material. And in this drop-down box here, you'll see base color. We're going to click on this dot here, base color. Here we're looking for our image. So under texture, we'll see image texture. And in this image texture, we will now do, in this browse image to be linked, we want our red.png. So you're basically telling it, I want to use the texture that that picture is associated with. So you're basically telling it, texture it based on this picture here, which means now we'll be able to paint it. Unfortunately, you do have to repeat this for all components. So we'll go to fixed components. Here, I will also select red. I think I already did it for there. So here, once again, okay, it's selected red. Here, also red, 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 red. All right. So effectively, yeah, you would just be repeating that, what we just did for the elevator on all components. But it appears that it has done so. So once all of your components have this texture, like these do now we can go into actually painting the vehicle. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. So one of the ways, just to see how this kind of works in a general scheme, is let's just take, let's say, a red color, and I'll just draw, and let's see where it shows up. So you can see we've hit some items here. All right, so we're drawing on this component. So let me actually undo that. I just want to check one thing here. We do have red. Okay, yeah, I see what's happened. Okay,